So what we're going to talk about next is plugins, and then later on we're going to talk about routing. So I've got this Elastic Audioed up. I'm going to go ahead and change it so I'm looking at my waveform for all of these, and I'm going to make them all in the small size. I don't need them to be super big here. And what I want to do is I'm going to find a part of my song that's got everything in here. Let's do like this. I put it into grid mode. I'm going to turn my grid to 1 bar. And let's do 4 bars here. You can hear there's a little bit of weirdness going on in here with some stuff. I just didn't make everything perfect, but that's okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start by doing a quick mix on this. And whoops, I'm going to make sure my groups are off here. And so I'm going to turn down my overheads, my overhead, what is this? Mono and my room microphone. I'm going to turn those down. So this is just the dry sound. Here's our kick drum and our snare drum. And you hear how everything sounds really different. I'm going to pull up my overhead here slowly into the mix. Just get this rough mix going on. And then I'm going to pull up my overhead mono. Let's see what that sounds like. Here, let's solo this one out. Yeah, this one sounds meh. But let's pull it up here. Cool. And let's go into and adjust our room. I'm actually going to leave the room out of it. The room's got too many artifacts in it. And I'm going to actually show y'all how to get a room from a plugin here. If you have a really good room that you're recording in the drums, the room is famous, like Ocean Way Studios or something like that, Abbey Road Studios, like where the room is famous, then keep the room. By all means, keep the room. But if you're just like in your garage or in your bedroom or whatever, and it's just your garage or your bedroom, and nobody's like being like, hey, did you hear Joe's bedroom? It sounds amazing. The reverb in that bedroom is awesome. Nobody's saying that. So you could probably not mic up your room. And that's what we're going to pretend like right here. We're going to pretend like this room is like meh. And we are going to hide and make it inactive. So it's still going to be there. If we want it back later, we can get it back later. But I'm going to show you how to do a room sound with a plugin here. That's what we're going to be talking about in the second video today, or the second after this part. So cool. I'm going to pull this one down a little bit. Actually, let's get rid of this mono one as well. And I'm going to show you how to kind of recreate that sound also, which is pretty fun. Okay, so now we got this. This is our dry drums. Let's go ahead and put some effects on these so they sound nice and tight. And this is going to show us how to do plugins, how to put plugins into Pro Tools. So what we're doing here is getting actually into our notes. So plugins, we're going to skip the history. The history doesn't really matter. Basically, what you need to know is Pro Tools plugins were awesome at first in the beginning because they were the first real-time plugins, real-time audio suite. That's what RTAS stands for. That used to be the plugin format. And then everybody else's plugins got better. The VST plugins got way more advanced, and the Audio Units plugins got way more advanced. And Pro Tools was kind of sitting around going, oh man, everybody come play with us again. And everybody's like, nah, dude, your plugins are too old. And so around 2010, they updated everything again. And so then they came out with this thing called AAX, which is the 2008 or 2010, somewhere around there. And the plugins got cool again, and now plugins are fine. So basically, that's what you need to know. The plugins that you use with Pro Tools have to be AAX. If you are buying plugins, for the most part, they will work fine with Pro Tools. There are, especially nowadays, I'm using a MacBook Air M1 chip, the new Apple Silicon chip. So mine are a little bit weird with Pro Tools, but enough of them do work that it's fine. I did run into the BBC from Spitfire. Their orchestra didn't load correctly for some reason. And I was just like, you know what? I'm never going to use it with Pro Tools right now anyway, so I don't care. I use it in Ableton Live and it works fine. But these AAX plugins, they work great. So that's all you need to know is that they're AAX format. Okay. So the other thing that you really need to know that's actually more important, or that's very important, but more important than the history, is track compatibility. Before we get into the plugins, remember what we talked about in the beginning. Pro Tools, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Pro Tools cares very much about mono tracks versus stereo tracks. And you have to choose mono or multi-mono or multi-signal plugins. What are they called? Multi-channel plugins. You have to choose the right plugins for Pro Tools. It doesn't really give you much of a choice. So for example, if I click on where it says kick, this is a mono audio track. We can see because it's only got one pan line or 1 meter. If I click on this and I go up here to my plugins, it just says plugins. And then they're my plugins. These are all either mono or mono to stereo plugins. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But if I go over here to my overhead track, this is a stereo track. If I click on this, it says multi-channel plugin or multi-mono plugin. What you need to know about that is that a multi-channel plugin is true stereo. It has one set of controls that change everything, left and right signal. It's just true stereo. Multi-mono are actually where the left and the right signal are separated into 2 mono signals, and they can be linked or unlinked. If they're linked, you've got one set of controls that just controls everything. If they're unlinked, they can be controlled separately, and you have to switch back and forth controlling them. This is actually really cool, and you can do some really cool things with it, but it's more advanced, and it's more like when you need to know, then you'll know that you can do it, and you'll be like, oh, I can do it. There's not a whole lot of reason to go into it deep in depth here because you haven't really gotten to the point where you need to do that stuff yet. So the main thing is that for like 98% of the time, use multi-channel plugins. For the other 2% of the time, you will have to use multi-mono. There are some things that are only multi-mono. All right. And the one that's really important that you're going to use pretty often, especially with me, is the trim plugin. The trim plugin is multi-mono. So if you have to put a trim plugin on a stereo track, you're not gonna find it in the multi-channel. So check this out. We go in here, I click here, and multi-channel. If I go to other, there's no trim. But if I go to multi-mono, other, there's the trim right there. Okay, so for the trim plugin, which is a very important plugin, then you will have to use multi-mono for that. Otherwise, you can pretty much forget about multi-mono. So for the most part, when you're inserting plugins on there, just use multi-channel. And if it's just a mono track, you don't have any choices anyway, so whatever. All right. The other thing to talk about before we get started too much into this is the mono to stereo. See how it says mono to stereo? For a compressor, that's going to be weird to use. Really what you're going to use mono to stereo for is like delays, reverbs, stuff like that. Mostly delays. What mono to stereo does is it takes a mono audio track and then changes it into a stereo signal. So if I have a mono track and I have a delay that's mono, it's going to come out being mono. But if I have a mono track and I have a delay that's mono to stereo, it's going to come out being stereo and bouncing around. Let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to solo out my kick drum. There's my kick drum. It's a mono kick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a delay on here. We're going to go to delay. We're going to use the delay that comes with Pro Tools, which is the Mod Delay 3 down here. I can say I've got a million delays. We can talk about those some other time. We're going to use Mod Delay 3 right now, and I'm going to use the one that says mono. So I click on this, and when I pull it up, here's what it looks like. It's just got one delay. So let's go ahead and put eighth notes in here, and we'll put a little bit of a feedback in here, and we'll put a low pass filter on it. And there we go. So let's listen to this. You can hear that delay on there. Right. Let's turn off the wet. There we go. Dry and wet. There we go. Hear that delay? Let me go ahead and bypass this. Right, there it is dry with no delay. And there it is with the delay. Now, let's go ahead and change that. And if you're listening to this with headphones on, good for you. That's awesome. That's what you should be doing. If you're listening to it without headphones on, this is an audio track, like audio class. Why are you listening without headphones? So listen with headphones. You should be listening with headphones. If you don't have them, put them on right now. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a sip of my juice drink while you put your headphones on. Yeah, that's a good juice drink. All right. So now you've got your headphones on. Now we're going to listen to this again with the exact same delay, except mono to stereo. So we're going to go mono to stereo. Now you can see how everything just changed. It just made a left and a right. So before it was just mono, now it's left and right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this between left and the right. I'm going to make this one dotted over here, and this one's going to be regular eighth notes. So now we're going to hear it back and forth. Let's listen. Hear that? If you have headphones on right now, you're going to hear it bouncing back and forth in your headphones. And that's mono to stereo. Now, the thing is that my original track is still mono. See this? This kick drum track here? Nothing, like if I look at it on here, it's still mono. What's the word I'm looking for? The recording hasn't changed at all. It's still a mono recording. But what's happened now is that Pro Tools has changed the signal into a stereo audio signal at that delay. Okay, so everything before that signal is mono. Everything after that plugin is going to be stereo. Would you ever use a delay on a kick? Not really. I mean, yeah, maybe if you wanted like a special kind of effect type of sound, but not usually. I'm just using it right now because it's just the easiest thing for me to grab and show you what it sounds like. But I would never in real life use a delay on a kick. I mean, not really. Like if I have like a kick drum, a 4 to the floor for house music, and I wanted to get like a little to get a rhythm out of it, I would use it then, but I would suck out the low end on it, so you just have the top end of it. So just have the top part of the kick drum for the delay. So, all right. So this mono here, this is a good example of what I'm talking about here. We've got this mono audio track, starts off with mono audio, and everything before my delay is going to be mono. Everything after it's going to be stereo. And over here, in this case, I've got the delay in the very first slot, so everything is going to be stereo afterwards. So if we go over here, let's take a look. I put my mod delay 3 right in the middle. So if I put up anything before this, watch what happens. Plugin, everything's mono. Everything like EQ, mono, dynamics, mono, all that stuff is mono, right? So let's go ahead and let's put a little compressor in here. Dyne 3 compressor limiter. That's the one that comes with Pro Tools. So we'll just use that. I'm not going to do anything with it for right now. Let's go look at after the delay. After the delay, see, it's stereo. Multi-channel versus multi-mono. That means it's stereo. So everything before here is mono. Everything after it is stereo. That's like, it's how it is and how it works. So if you want things to be stereo, like if I wanted to put like a chorus or something on here, I could do that over on this side. It really depends on what you're going for. There are some other factors to consider when you're dealing with your effects, like how my effects chain and all that stuff, but we're going to be talking about effects chains later on. The focus of today's lesson is not effects chains. The focus of today's lesson is just being able to put plugins onto tracks. And then we can talk about effects chains. Once you're good at using plugins, then we can talk about effects chains. All right, so that's that. That's the mono versus stereo thing. Yeah, cool. Stereo plugins. Most, like I said, most plugins are both multi-channel and multi-mono, or you know mono or whatever. Some reverbs are only stereo, and trim has to be multi-mono. So you got to make sure about that. It's not a big deal. Just be aware that if you don't see the plugin in your list, it may be multi-channel only or multi-mono only. Don't panic. Take a deep breath. Calm down. Say, you know what? Tony said don't panic. I'm not going to panic. And then you'll figure it out. Awesome. Like why you're not seeing that plugin. Okay. So in order to put a plugin onto a track, it's super, super easy. Let's just go over here. Hey, what is up, Barb? How you doing? Good morning. All right. So what we're going to do, we are going to go in here, and in order to put a plugin onto a track, it's as easy as just click in this insert space in here. So you just, any of these insert spaces, click, and it pulls up your plugin list. And so let's say we want to put a compressor on there here, and I just go over to my dynamics and I can select any one of these. Okay, so there you go. Now you'll notice that mine down here on the bottom has the lists of companies here as well. Well, why is that? Yours does not have that list of companies. Mine does have that list of companies. Here's why. If we go to Setup, Preferences, go into Display, we're going to go into Organize Plugin Menus By, and you can make a selection here. By default, it says Category, and that's fine as far as it goes. But I actually like to have my plugins situated by category and manufacturer, because some plugins I think of as a category, like this is a EQ, or this is a distortion, or this is a delay. Some plugins I think about from the manufacturer. I think like, oh, that's an Eventide plugin. Oh, that's a Native Instruments plugin. Oh, that's a Slate plugin. And because I have so many plugins, I have too many plugins really, I need to be able to get to them really, really quick. So if I can remember the name of it, I'll just do a search for it, hit Command F, do a search for it or whatever. But usually I can remember it's made by this manufacturer or that manufacturer, or it's in a certain category. So this is how I have mine set up here. I'm going to hit cancel because mine's already set up like that. So I click on the box and I can pull up a plugin. So I'm going to go ahead and put a compressor in here. Let's go ahead and use the Dyne 3 compressor limiter. Boop, there we go, cool. And now when I hit go on this kick drum, we can see that compressor doing some stuff. And I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna go in here and put plug. I'm just gonna use a preset in here. Let's go to kick thump. And whenever you use a preset, the only thing you really need to mess with is for compressors is your threshold, because you do wanna see. There you go. You can hear it, put a little bit of extra thump in there. Nice. Barb says, at the end of the class, let me know what days and times you usually take the class. I'm from Brazil. We have different time zones. Actually, Barb, I am in the same time zone as you because I'm actually operating from Colombia right now. But just so you know, I can tell you just real quick because it doesn't take long. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays from 8:30 or 9:30 Eastern Standard Time in America until about noon Eastern Standard Time. And for you, that's about an hour difference because we're in the same time zone as the East Coast of America, but the East Coast does the whole time change. So there you go. 9:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time until noon Eastern Standard Time. All right, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. All right, so that's this one here. Now, if I want to put another plugin in here, I just click on the next one. I put another plugin in here. Let's put an EQ. We'll put the 7-band EQ that comes with Pro Tools. And let's say I want to get rid of the snap of it. You are welcome. So if I put this down, I can get rid of the snap of that kick drum, or I can accentuate the snap. If we want like a little bit more thump, right? You can get a little bit more thump out of it. There's a lot more thump, right? Too much thump. Just a little bit like that. It sounds pretty good like that. Boom. Okay. So a little bit of EQ on here. I can adjust my Q. If you've been thinking about the audient or messing with the audient, these will make a lot of sense to you. All right. Now, let's say that I want my plugins to be in a different order. I can take these and I can drag them around like this. I can move them around. If I drop it right on top of it, it's going to actually get rid of it. And unfortunately, you can't undo your plugins, which is lame. Any kind of change you make to your plugins, you can't undo it. So, well, you can undo if you make changes to the plugin itself, but if you delete a plugin or insert a plugin or accidentally drop a plugin on top of another plugin, you can't do anything about that, which is really, really lame. So I'm just going to go ahead and recreate that EQ. Where are we? EQ7. Cool. Let's just pull this one down a little bit, push you up. There we go. Cool. All right, let's get rid of, there you go. Okay. So be careful when you're moving these around, because if you drop them on top of another one, you can't undo it. You can go back and get to it with your backups, but you can't actually just hit Command Z. It creates issues. So be careful about that. I don't know why Pro Tools is like that. It just is. All right, so in here we got the D3 compressor. We got our EQ here. And like I said, you can put the EQ before the compressor. You can put the EQ after the compressor. I usually put my EQs after my compressors. And then if we need more, because you can see there's only 5 inserts per channel. Well, if we need more, we can go over here to view, and we can go to, where is it? I know how to do it down here. There we go. Inserts I through J. Down here at the bottom. Sorry, I was going up to the top. I think it's still up at the top. Mix window. Oh, here we go. Mix window views. Inserts F through J. I usually do it down here in the bottom though, because you can actually turn things on and off more, like several of them if you wanted to. So if we want to see all 10, now I have 10 inserts available to me. That's 10 plugins that I can use. The order matters. I think I just said that, but I'm just going to say it again. The order matters. So the compressor after the EQ makes a difference. It changes the sound. It's not going to change the sound very much. We're not going to talk about this right now. We have a whole lesson devoted to the effect chains and why the order matters. But just so you know, the order does matter. So don't think that you can just throw a compressor and EQ, a distortion or whatever on a track and it's just like whatever. It's not whatever. The order matters. Okay. So if if you're usually using a bunch of effects on your tracks, you might want to just keep F through J open. For me, I usually keep F through J closed until I need it, just to save space, especially on a laptop. I don't need to see everything all at once, only if I need to. It's like on a need to see basis, right? Now, the other thing here is the sends A through E. The sends, if you click on it, it shows you outputs. Well, we're going to talk about this a little bit later today. We're actually going to talk about this after the break. But this is where routing stuff is. The sends are where it's where you send your signal. You can move the audio around within Pro Tools. We're still going to use inserts for stuff though. The inserts are on every single channel. You can even see over here, my master fader here. My master fader has inserts on it. Inserts are just the effects that go onto the track itself. We use inserts on aux channels. We use inserts on the regular channels. Inserts are just what goes on it right here. These are where you put your plugins. You do not put plugins on the sends. The send is where you send the signal to somewhere else. The insert is where you actually put your plugins, and the order matters. Okay, so cool. All right. Okay, let's open up these plugins and take a look at the controls here. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a mono to stereo plugin so we can just see the difference. And then we're also going to pull up a stereo plugin. So we have one mono plugin, one mono to stereo plugin. Ooh, let's use this effect here that I just got. This is my Timeless FabFilter Timeless 3. They just released it. And then we're going to pull up a full-on multi-channel plugin. No, we're going to pull up a multi-mono plugin because the multi-channel is basically what the Timeless is. And we're going to pull up a multi-mono plugin, and we're going to pull up another EQ for that. Okay, cool. So we have this compressor. Okay, hold on a second. There we go. Okay. So close this. Okay, so we got a compressor, we got Timeless, and we got the EQ7 band. How am I opening multiple plugins at the same time? I am holding down the Shift key to open up multiple plugins at the same time. If you just click on different plugins, it's just going to open up the one plugin. But what I want to do is I want to have these here, and I want to show you what the differences are between this. So this one here is a mono plugin. This one here is a mono to stereo plugin, and this one here is a multi-mono plugin. Okay, they all look pretty much the same for the most part. There's just one difference when we get into these. Okay, so let's just take a look at the beginning part here. That's exactly the same. First of all, this section over here, this one here is showing me what track I'm on. So if I want to change tracks, I can change tracks. This one here is showing me what insert slot I'm in. There's 10 insert slots. And then this one here is showing me what the actual insert is. So let's just break that down. These two here are navigation things. So for example, if I have and insert on my kick drum and my snare drum, and I have one compressor on here, and let's put a different compressor on this one. Let's say I'm looking at this one, but I say, you know what? I want to look at the compressor that's on my kick drum. So I go over here and I change this to my kick drum, and now I'm looking at the compressor that's on my kick drum. And I say, okay, that's all well and good, but actually I don't want to be looking at the compressor. I want to be looking at this 7-band EQ, the mono 7-band EQ. So I can click on that, and now I'm looking at the mono 7-band EQ. The reason why it's like this is so that when we are using a target mode, which is this little button right over here, see they all have, they all have a target mode. Here, this one has a target mode down here. This one has a target mode over here. This one also has a target mode. It's just off the edge of the screen over here, boom. Whenever we're using the target mode, that's for our hardware. The target is for our hardware. So, if I'm using the Control 24 or S6, which is what we have at school, the S6, actually the hardware can turn into a controller for all of these different controls. And that's whatever I've got targeted here. So I can actually change stuff from the hardware, which is really nice. But if I'm just using software and I'm not using any hardware with Pro Tools, I don't really need to worry about this stuff, this target mode here. And all this kind of becomes a little bit like you don't need to have it, because I can just click around on stuff and I'm fine. I don't need, and I usually don't have multiple plugin windows open, but that's just me. So everybody works differently with this stuff. So that's that. Now this third one here, what is up, BX Beats? How you doing? This third one here is actually going to change the plugin that's in the slot here. So these first two are navigation only. They're not going to change this plugin. But let's say that I don't want to use this compressor. I want to use a different compressor. So I can go over here and I can say, all right, let's use a different compressor. Let's use the FabFilter Pro C2. Now I open that up, and now it's got my compressor here. So I've actually changed the compressor that's on that slot, okay, which I may or may not want to do. Let's go back here and put it back where it was. Okay, so that's what this does here. This one here, navigation, changing the plugin. Over here are the presets, and now presets are literally just changing the knobs that are in here, changing these knobs that are here. So if I scroll through these presets, oh yeah, oh I'm glad you got it. Decapitator is amazing, right? Awesome, yeah. I sent emails out to everybody in my class, both my class and the previous class as well. So just take a look. I mean, Decapitator is on sale right now for a great price. It's awesome. Put it on your kick drums, put it on your bass lines, put it on your 808s. It's awesome for that stuff. Put it on your snare drums if you want to beef them up a little bit, but it's great for that low end. It's great for giving something that kind of extra feel to it. It's something, it's been a secret weapon for people for many, many years, and I'm sure that Sound Toys would love it if it was not a secret weapon, if it was something that you used on the regular. So awesome. I'm glad you got it, and I'm glad you're loving it. Cool. All right. So back to this preset. Ooh, since we're talking about Decapitator, let's just open up Decapitator, shall we? Does it show up here? No, it doesn't show up here, although it could be kind of a dynamics thing, but it's going to show up here in harmonics. Decapitator is right here. So here's my Decapitator. Let's bypass this. Oh, you know what? Hold on a second. Hold on. My Decapitator is actually linked to my iLok key, and the answer is yes, I do have this iLok. I just didn't have it plugged in. It was still in my bag from Cartagena. All right, there we go. There's Decapitator. Yeah, good Decapitator here. We can just give a listen to this, what it does for the sound. So there's my drum sound without Decapitator. Here it is dry. Now, oh my gosh, hear that? Crazy. Whoa, too far. Drum fattener, there we are. The drum fattener is one of my favorite settings for this. Drum fattener 1, 2, 3, 1 is gonna give you some meat. Yeah, Decapitator's dope. I'm a big fan. It's actually like a distortion plugin that emulates different amps and stuff, but it sounds great for bass lines. because I mean bass lines and kick drums and stuff like that. If you need to add some more boom, boom, boom to them, this is a great place to go. And it's on sale right now, so you should definitely go get that. All right, let's go back though to our we were doing the dynamics compressor, right? Yeah. There we go. Boom. Okay, so we got this in here. Let's go through some presets. So you noticed, I don't know if you were paying attention really, but the presets I was just using, I was doing them slightly differently. Pro Tools also has its presets set up, and the way that Pro Tools set up its presets is right here. And I can go through and I can just click through my different presets. So let's go in here. I can click the plus and minus keys. I can also click on this to bring up my list. So let's go to kick thump. Like I said, for compressors, you always want to pull down that threshold, because whoever is making the compressor, they don't know what your audio level is. So they just have to put a guess at whatever they're using it for. So always adjust your threshold, because that's going to enable your compressor to actually start working, as we talked about the first week. There's kick thump. Let's try kick tight. Yeah, there's kick tight. I prefer kick thump. There we go. Not too much. This is way too much. There we go. Nice. Cool. Okay. So that's our presets. Now, let's just take a look at how other companies do presets real quick. Is over here, FabFilter. This is FabFilter Timeless. FabFilter, the way they do their presets is very different. If you go in here, you're not going to find any presets for FabFilter, because it is a third-party plugin. It doesn't come with Pro Tools. So if you want to get your presets up for this one, you actually have to go over here to our presets. So I've got FabFilter here as an insert directly on the track, which is something you really aren't ever going to do. But let's just hear what it sounds like when we actually use this one here. Let's go ahead and just listen to some of these. I'm going to take my mix and set my mix to 30%. I'm going to lock it into place. Okay, it was locked into place anyway. Cool. And here's some presets that come with FabFilter Timeless 3. Cool. And I can click on this over here. These are all faves. Let's go to special effects. Special effects, rhythmic. Weird. Cool. Some interesting sounds in here. Yeah, really interesting. Okay, so you can do some really cool stuff in here. There's also some other ones in here. Let's go down here to percussion stuff. Right. There's a lot going on here, but my main point is that we're not doing it with our normal preset setup up here. We're doing it with the presets inside of the plugin itself. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind when you're dealing with third-party plugins. If I go down here to my EQ, we can go in here. And again, this is a Pro Tools plugin. So we can go in here and we can say, okay, I want to check out some kick drum EQs. Add attack. Whoops. And I can just go in here and click on some of these and just hear what they sound like. Kick monster. Okay. Now, if I don't want to click through, if I'm like feeling lazy and I don't want to click through these, what I can do is I can go in here. Let's go back to my first one here. I can click on this little button here, right there. And it pulls up this list, and I can click through and it changes my presets, but I can also set it to change every 1 second. And it will go through my sounds for me. Let's have it change every 4 seconds. And it will go through for me automatically. If I'm feeling particularly lazy. Like, I don't want to click the plus button. Fine, whatever. You can just sit back and enjoy the show, and when you hear one that you like, let's say I like Punchy Kick 2, I hit done, and now it's on Punchy Kick 2, and we're good to go, okay? That's how your presets can work. Now, let's say that I take this and I make a change to it. Like I changed it, so I changed my, let's go up to this one up here, and I changed my my threshold. Let's change the gain. Right, whatever. Right, so let's change this up here like this. Get the attack nice and punchy. Whatever. Put up my ratio. Whatever, whatever. Now I can save this as something. Yeah, I can hit the compare button to compare it to what it was. That's what it was before. There it is now. And I go up here to my presets up here, and I can go save settings as, copy settings, import settings, set as user default, stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to save settings as, and I'm going to call this one loud beef kick. And I always put my initials either in the beginning or the end and hit save. And these actually show up on a, where? They should show up down here. There should be a, interesting. They're not showing up right now. Interesting. Well, if they're not showing up, what I could do is I can import my settings. And I can say, where do I want to import them from? Oh, Tony's, there they were. Okay, Tony Snare. Oh, maybe they were in there. Hold on a second. Maybe I just didn't see them. Oh, there we go. Loud beef. It was in there. Okay, cool. So there it is. There's my settings. You can also set up folders and stuff in here too to make life a little bit easier for you. All right. So if I want to, I can actually save this setting as my user default. So every time I pull up this this plugin, it's going to have that setting. And I wouldn't do it with this compressor here, but is how I have my setup for my, let's see, let's go down here and go to E and change this into, it is how I have it set up for my my EQ1, one band EQ. Actually, well, I don't have it set up right now. I have had it set up like this in the past, where for my EQ1, the main use I have for it is at like 150 or like, let's say 100 hertz low cut or a high pass. Let's set that to 6. And what I do is I just go in here and I say, all right, let's go ahead, and you can see I got some folders set up in here that I set. And what I do, whoa, sorry. Put this to 100 and put this to high pass, change this to 6 band, because I don't want to have to do this every single time. Mostly what I'm using this thing for is a high pass filter. So what I do is I go in here and I say save settings as, and then in here, EQ3, let's put them in my Tony settings. Give it a name. Oh, give it a name. Let's call this one high pass filter. Oh, I've already got one 100 hertz. Yeah, I can cancel. I don't need to do it again. So there it is, 100 hertz, boom. Now, if I want to have this one be my default, I go over here and I say set as user default. Now, what's going to happen is anytime that I want to put that plugin on a track, anytime I want to put that plugin on a track, like right over here, let's put it on this track right here, snare drum, EQ, one band, pulls it up, and it's got the settings that I want. Great. There we go. We are good to go. I don't need to go through and put them on there every single time. And especially it's useful for this high pass filter here. Now, if I ever want to get rid of that setting, I can go back to my default, factory default here, and I can say set this as my users, I think, hold on, set plugin default to, oh, factory setting, there we go. Default, yeah, boom, there we go, cool. So yeah, I can set that so it just always, every time I pull it up. And that's what I have it set like that because I teach with Pro Tools. If I was, if I'm using this in the studio more with this version that I have, I would actually have it set for my special defaults and stuff. But I don't really do a lot of stuff in Pro Tools these days. All right, so we have all this. Get rid of you, boop, boop, boop. Now let's go over here, pull up this one here, set up my, there we go. Oh, and let's get this one. Yeah. Actually, what I want to do is not that one. I want to go ahead and change this one to this EQ. There we go. Now, the reason why I did that was because this next part over here, oh, the automation stuff is right here. Hold on, before we do that, we're not going to talk about the automation stuff too much. It's just, here's your automation enable section here. We're going to talk about that when we talk about automation, which we haven't done yet. And then over here, safe mode means that any kind of automation you have is just it's gonna make sure it's locked into place so you can't automate new stuff. We'll come back and talk about that another time. What I want to talk about right now is this bypass here and this native here. The native is just, it's not a button, it's just something to show you where the power for this plugin is coming from. If you have a Pro Tools HD setup, you can actually go back and forth now with Pro Tools HD or Pro Tools Ultimate and Pro Tools Regular or Pro Tools Ultimate on your computer to use native processing or your DSP processing. So with you right now, this is always going to say native, but if you work in our studio at school, you can actually offload your processing power to the DSP chips, the external DSP chips. So this would say like DSP or something like that. I forget what it says, but it doesn't say native. That's to show you where the power for this plugin is actually coming from. Okay, finally, let's get to this part here. This is really what I want to talk about, is this part here, this link. The reason why this link is coming up, whenever you see this stuff over here, that means that this is a multi-mono plugin. Anything that doesn't show it, it's either a mono plugin or it's a multi-channel plugin. This one here is a multi-channel plugin. This one here is a mono plugin. This one down here is a multi-mono plugin. What this allows me to do is I can turn off the link, and now I can edit my left or my right side to make a different sound. So left side, right side. And if we listen to this, if you've got headphones on right now, you can hear the difference. You can hear it sounds like it's brighter on the right side of your ear, on the right side of your head, and not the left side. Okay, that's because we have two different EQ curves going on between the left side and the right side. If I want to link these back together, I click on this and it's saying, hey, you got differences going on. Which one do you want to be controlling, left or right? Let's make it be the left side. Hit OK. And now my kick drum is going to sound like it's back in the middle, but it was using my left side to do that with. So that's what that is for. If you have a multi-mono plugin, you want to have different things on the left and the right side, do it right there. That's where you do it. This is not, you can't move this around. It doesn't do it. It just shows you stuff. You can like, I don't know. I guess you can like lock it in. I guess I'm not exactly sure what that stuff is for, honestly. But yeah, there you go. That's the important bits have been covered. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that EQ because we don't really need it. I don't need the EQ after my timeless, not right now. Sweet. And all the stuff we just covered was all right here in the notes. The track selector, track slot selector, plugin selector, there we go. The presets, there's my presets, my selector, my compare, and then my auto button, and then auto save. This is your auto enable menu here. It allows you to automate plugins within the automate parameters within the plugin, and you got to enable these. But like I said, we're going to be talking about automation very soon, so I don't want to get too far into this because it's just going to be all this stuff here about the automation stuff. We're going to talk about that again another time. Right now, I don't want to like make y'all crazy about too much information. Okay, finally, let's talk about Audio Suite plugins. Audio Suite plugins are non-real-time plugins. What that means is that with an Audio Suite plugin, you're applying the plugin to the clip and it's making a new audio clip on your computer. So if I have this kick drum, I'm going to turn this one off here. And let's say for this first 2 bars of the kick drum, let's say for the first 2 bars of the kick drum, I want this to have a distortion on it. Everything else, I don't want to have a distortion. So what I could do, instead of putting those on its own track and adding a distortion to the plugins, I can go in here and I can go up to Audio Suite, Harmonic, and go to Distortion. So let's put on here Decapitator. We were just talking about Decapitator. And let's put on here the plugin under Drum Fattener. And so if we listen to it, if I hit this button down here, we can listen to that clip. Let's use 70s records or a thick. Yeah, let's use 70s record here. Cool. Okay. That sounds good. Like this. Okay. So what I've done, when I hit this little button down here, it's gonna play for me. If I turn it off, we can hear it, we can whatever. And then over here, there's a button that says render, and there's like a little 2 here. This 2 is meaning it's gonna render the clip plus 2 seconds on either side. I probably don't need 2 seconds. 1 is probably enough. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna render that clip and then a second on either side, so I can like crossfade and stuff like that. Mine is glitching a little bit just because, again, the whole Pro Tools with the M1 chip they're not good friends. So there's some things, it wasn't sounding the way it should normally sound. I also hardly ever use Audio Suite, but let's go ahead and just do this. I'm gonna hit render. It renders it. Now, what it just did, if we listen to that part there, let's go ahead and listen to this one here. So listen to this and then listen to these. Oh wait, hold on, it didn't put it in there. Let's go find it. There we go, kick decapitator. Drag it in, boop, there we go. There's my decapitator kick. You can see the waveform's a little bit different than this over here. It should have actually put it in there by default. It didn't because, again, glitches on my computer. There it is with the decapitator. There it is without decapitator. Let's do one more time. And there it is without decapitator. So the decapitator was just on this clip, but it also actually added it into an extra second on either side. So if I drag it this way, you can see these two here have extra decapitator on them. The reason why is so if I wanted to do a crossfade for whatever reason, I could do a crossfade. It's gonna sound kind of weird. Right, it sounds a little bit weird, but that's what that's for. That's what that extra 1 second was for, so you can have an extra 1 second of audio to do crossfades and stuff. So with Audio Suite plugins, the main thing to take away from Audio Suite plugins is that, honestly, I never use Audio Suite plugins. I don't ever use Audio Suite plugins. It's not something I do, except for a couple of things that you need to use Audio Suite plugins for, and that is in the notes right over here. These ones here. So this shows you how to do it. Select the clip you want to affect, select the Audio Suite effect you want to use, play the preview as you make changes to the settings, all the stuff I just showed you, render the audio. You should probably create a duplicate playlist before you do all this. The reason why you want to create a duplicate playlist is because if you make some mistake with it, you want to easily be able to go back. Now, the useful ones are reverse. There's no other way to reverse audio in Pro Tools except for Audio Suite plugins, so you got to use it for that. Gain. This used to be something really, really useful. Usually I use the clip gain instead of the Audio Suite gain, but if you talk to any really old school people who used Pro Tools before, that have, been using Pro Tools for like 30 years or 20 years or so, they might still use the clip gain, the gain Audio Suite plugin, but I doubt it. I have heard of students going out into the real world and people telling them to use the Audio Suite gain. I think it's silly. Clip gain is the way to go. Signal generator to recreate steady tones. If you want to add some oomph into your kick drum where there's not any and you don't have the plugins for it, you want to use a signal generator for it to add in like a low 60 hertz or 50 hertz, you can do it right there. Normalize. Really, you don't need to use normalize except for drum samples. If you're doing sampling, if you're watching YouTube videos, you might hear people talk about normalizing stuff. Ignore them. Normalizing really is the only time to use it is for drum samples where you're making sample libraries and stuff. What normalize does is it analyzes the audio and finds the loudest peak, for example, in this case at like -5 dB, and it just raises everything by 5 dB. Useless. Seriously useless. Don't use normalize. Awesome. I think that's the end of the notes there. So let's go ahead and stop the recording right there. Cool.